Bad managers, they say, are responsible for 1 in 5 employee resignations, and most organisations have no idea that it's driving staff out the door. That is according to Exit Info. Exit Info specialises in comprehensive and objective exit interviews that help organisations identify what is driving staff turnover. So to talk us more about this, we're joined in the studio by Exit Info Director Lenore Lambert. Lenore, thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
So you say there's quite an obvious trend of employers just having no idea why staff leave.
Yes, most organisations do conduct some form of exit interview process, but the way that it's done often means that they don't identify what's the real driver of people deciding to leave their organisation.
What are the real drivers, according to your survey?
Across the board, the number one reason people leave organisations is lack of appropriate opportunity for career advancement. The next two are also to do with the job, so there's lack of interest in the type of work itself that they're doing, lack of challenge and stretch in the job itself, and followed closely on the heels of that is poor management.
So remuneration's not in there, which is interesting because most people would say people move on to get more pay.
No, it's rarely the case, and we've known for a lot of years, in fact, that pay really, once people have joined, pay matters when you join an organisation. Once people are at an organisation, as long as you're paying them well enough, pay ceases to matter too much in terms of motivation and retention.
So what do employers think are the main reasons people leave them when you sort of compare the lists? What do employers think's different?
It varies a lot. So it depends a lot on how they collect the information, and that's really, I guess, the key point here is that if you really need a good rigorous process and preferably an external party collecting that kind of information to make sure that you get the real story.
Is it too late by the time they want to leave, though?
It's too late for that person, but it's a bit like, you know, if there's a disease epidemic deciding, well, we won't study the people who've died from the disease because they're already dead. You know, you want to know what to do to avoid the turnover in the future. And it's interesting, a lot of organisations are doing engagement surveys these days, which are great, and you get terrific information from engagement. However,
what does that mean exactly? What's an engagement survey?
Usually there are 3 components to it. It's how committed people are, how much of their full effort and potential they're giving to the organisation. Depending on which model you use, it can also include whether they intend to stay and what they say about your organisation to other organisations, to other people and organisations. So that's quite a popular thing to do these days, and a lot of good information comes from it. Having said that, I've been having a lot of conversations with senior HR people who are saying we've got great engagement scores, but our staff are still leaving in droves. So engagement is only a very moderate predictor of whether you're going to lose staff. It's the good exit data, the real exit data that captures why people really left, that will help you prevent it in the future.
What's stopping people from getting that information, though? What's sort of the wedge in between all of this? I mean, is it people worrying about hurting feelings, that sort of thing? I mean, why aren't they getting the information? Apart from the fact that obviously the exit surveys aren't correct, but there must be other factors in there.
Yeah, I think from the departing employee's perspective, I think it's rare that they lie. It's more that they might not tell the whole truth. Most people, by the time they're ready to leave, have been through an emotional process of making that decision, and by the time it's out there, they just want to get out of there. They don't want any repercussions. They don't want anything to come back on them. They don't want to burn bridges, essentially. So it's easier, especially if it's conducted internally, to just give a safe excuse that is not confronting for anybody. So, you know, pay is an easy one to give, promotion is another easy one to give, and yet we know that a lot of people leave for, in fact, about 2/3 of people leave for roles at level or at a more junior level. So
yeah, it's a very interesting finding that career advancement, you say, is not the same thing as promotion.
Correct, yeah.
So explain that to us.
So career advancement, this is a mistake organisations often make. They think, well, there's nothing we can do about it. You know, we have a flat structure, we only have so many opportunities to promote people. But career advancement is not just about promotion. It's about, am I building my little kit bag of competencies? Because people are loyal to their careers these days. They're not loyal to organisations in the same way that organisations are not loyal to employees. And that's all fine. But what career advancement means to the average person these days is, am I advancing in terms of my capability and what I can put on my CV by being here with you as my employer?
Obviously, we sort of introed you saying you're experts in comprehensive and objective exit interviews, but what do you have in there that organisations are really missing out on?
A lot of it comes, well, probably two things. Number one, we collect a lot of information. So 2 to 3 times the amount of information that most organisations who do it internally or who are using online surveys, which is another trend. We collect about 2 to 3 times the amount of information. So what that does is allow organisations to really drill down and understand not just the surface level, why are people leaving, but underneath, what else is going on. So that's definitely a big part of the equation.
Excellent. We have to leave it there. We're out of time. Lenore Lambert, though, from Exit Info. You're the director there, of course. Lenore, thanks very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks, Brooke.
Well, Starbucks stores across Australia are going to be closing their doors within half an hour. The speculation mounts the US coffee chain may close some or all of their Australian outlets. Our reporter Aaron Young is outside of Starbucks in Melbourne, joining us now on the line. Aaron, tell us what's happening there. This seems to be obviously a developing story today.
Yes, a very good afternoon to you. I'm sitting right now inside the Starbucks on the corner of Burke Street and Swanson Street in Melbourne. That was one of the first Starbucks to actually open shop about 5 years ago here in Melbourne, in Victoria. There are 37 stores here in Melbourne, 85 across Australia now. An anonymous email apparently went out last night, which has kind of told people that the writing could be on the wall for some or all of those Starbucks stores. Now, in about 15 minutes, it's 1:45, of course, here in Melbourne, we are expecting that the Starbucks stores will be closed. There are signs up on the windows telling people that the Starbucks shops will be closing. People are just sipping their last lattes now. We've seen the signs going in. Now, what happens here? I've spoken to one of the barristers while I was waiting for my coffee, and we're being told that 2 o'clock the doors close, and then from that point on, they will find out at that time where they are meeting. There is some speculation they might meet at head office here in Melbourne. In Sydney, it's at French's Forest, which is an Australian head office, or there could be some sort of teleconference where they'll find out exactly what is going on with these stores. But it does come a month after Starbucks in the United States announced that they were closing 600 stores there. A lot of those stores, in fact, around 70% of those stores that are closing in the United States are stores which have opened since 2006, so they are the newer stores. So I guess right now it's a game of wait and see. We find out at 5 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time exactly what is going on.
I mean, it all seems so dramatic, doesn't it? What about the plans? What are the options?
Well, there are several options, obviously. The first one is the worst possible scenario, and that is for all those employees. There must be up to 10 full-time employees at each store that